We're live. All right, welcome everybody to House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. It is Thursday, April 30th, and we are here to keep learning about the Enterprise Resource Planning project, which is a big IT modernization project across state government. And we'll just go around the room and introduce ourselves. And we always ask everybody who's joining us to introduce themselves from the bench seats, and then we'll turn it over to you for the record. So I'm Representative Kathleen James from the Bennington 4 District, Manchester.
Scott Kent, St. Johnsbury.
Richard Bailey, Memorial 2.
Tomorrow, Wyndham, Elizabeth. Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Yeah, Tori, Washington 2.
Great, and joining us.
Cal Hale, Green Hills Public Affairs.
John Kelly, ADS.
Lisa Goman, JFO IT consultant. Renee Bordeaux, consultant for Agency of Transportation.
Super.
Kevin Vianney, Agency of Digital Services.
Denise Ramsey also the Agency of Digital Services.
With voice restored. All right, for the record.
For the record, my name is Jana Morse. I'm the Director of Administration for the Agency of Transportation. And I'm here today to talk about our experience with the Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP project, and why it's important and necessary for the agency. Would you like me to just go ahead and get started?
Yeah, that'd be great. We have your memo.
Excellent.
It's always good. Yes, I was going to say it's always good to walk us through that
Of course.
on the assumption that everyone may not have
gone through. Yeah,
gone through.
understood.
For example,
So after reviewing the testimony last week provided by Secretary Radley Hughes and Deputy Secretary Brown, I wanted to also add the Agency of Transportation's perspective to the need for the ERP project. I'll use the term ERP for both components, our HCM, or human capital management, and the financials component. So for us, it's a holistic system. And it's very important for us to be able to move forward with this project in a timely manner. And we have been part of this for the last several years, as well as the reset that's occurring now. We currently operate two solutions. We have our MATS product, which is our maintenance activity tracking system. That's where we do our labor, equipment, and materials tracking. And then we also utilize our STARS system, which stands for State Transportation Accounting and Reporting System. So that's our financial system. So we have timekeeping, we have reporting, and then with our timekeeping, we also have materials and equipment tracking. So why this is important is because we are the cognizant federal highway, as we are the cognizant agency for receiving federal monies from USDOT and other sources. So Federal Highway certifies our systems, both the MAT system and the STAR system, for us to be able to receive federal dollars. We put through over $500 million in federal monies every year just from USDOT. We additionally, because FEMA, the Emergency Management Organization at the federal level, we are the initial reporting agency for municipalities. We collect the initial damage assessments from municipalities in the event of a meteorological event, as well as the rail trails, and our own facilities. So not the rest of state facilities, but just our transportation facilities. So in 2023, the flooding events, we put over $100 million in FEMA reimbursements, projects that are being developed, and those monies are coming to us because of the certifications of our MATS and our STAR systems. So the criticality for us with the ERP system is our MATS system, our managing assets for transportation, timekeeping, the labor, equipment, and materials component. We've reached end of life of that product. And right now, it was a tri-state initiative event originally with New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. We don't own the code for it. We are, I will say, limping along with our support from our digital services team, who were fortunate enough to have a couple of resources that know how to code in this product, and that can provide some updates. But we're one bad day away from failure. And it's really critical for us to be able to move into a system that is what I've started to refer to as our One Vermont system. We're disparate from the rest of the organizations, and we think that we can be successful with moving into the ERP system and be able to meet the basic needs of the products we have now with the new system. So I understand one of the questions will probably be, well, how are you going to get through the next couple of years until this system goes live? We needed to understand the timing of the product that was going to be released and what the future is going to look like. And we're actively looking at several other pathways to be able to meet the needs of the MATS system were we to need to transition off of it before ERP is live. I don't have details on those because we are still fleshing out both of the options. One of them would be internal to government, and the ADS team, digital services, is exploring what that might look like to create us a standalone system that would purely be available for the time that we are between solutions. So between MATS and between ERP. And then we're looking at another opportunity that we might be able to disperse the different functionalities of the MATS system into multiple state solutions and be able to put a Band-Aid fix on it until we can move into the ERP solution. So a lot more to come. We're in the new days of that. But this is finally able to be started because we have completed our requirements review for the MATS and the STARS systems with the Guidehouse partners and our digital services business analyst that's been assigned to us. So that's a lot, and that's only probably the first 2 paragraphs, maybe 3 of the memo. Actually 4. So
I have a question.
yes,
So just in super layman speak, MATS is critical to processing or pulling down or tracking a lot of the federal funding
correct.
because of the timesheet component,
The
because,
labor, equipment, and materials components.
okay, so when you get these big federal highway funds or something, I mean, I'm just trying to, it's really important that you be able to document back to them.
It's an audit capability for them, yes. It's a component of it.
Okay, which means that the federal government needs really granular detail about how many hours people are putting on the project, or
So
I meant like baseline.
yes.
here.
Okay. So whenever we receive monies down, we're certifying that we're using them for the projects that we intend to deliver. And then
Okay,
we have to essentially provide that audit trail of where did the money go
okay.
through the system
So how
and was
much
it
asphalt
allocated
did
and
we
how much
buy
was
and
it
what
not?
equipment did we have to buy and whose time went into this? So that we
Essentially.
prove to the dot that we use that money for that highway.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Could you just explain that you went over you were trying to do a tri-state system?
Yes.
Well, could you just explain that a little, what happened, what didn't work?
Other organizations are moving off of the product, and Maine has already moved onto the Workday platform, and other states are just not interested in continuing the relationship that we had.
Okay.
And where are we at with the kind of gap analysis between STARS and Workday?
So we provided our requirements for both MATS and STARS to the project team. And I say project team inclusive of digital services, Guidehouse, and Hain, and anyone else that I might be forgetting. So I'll look to I'm seeing nodding heads over here. And our collaborative team has been able to analyze our business requirements for both the STARS and the MATS products and provide us back a yes, we can do this, or no, we cannot, or this might require, excuse me, a little bit of massaging. We want to understand your business process further to know whether we can meet it exactly as you do it now, or whether we AOT need to think about, is the process that we're doing the process that we need to be doing in the future. So part of where we're at right now is looking at the business transformation aspect of this. And just because we've done something the same way and doesn't mean that we will do it that way in the future. And that's where we're peeling back the onion, so to speak, at the moment, is really understanding in more detail. Yes, you said you can do this. What does that look like? And bringing our federal partners to the table through the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, as a resource center. That resource center is part of our certification process. So we'll be bringing them into the design phase of the project when we're looking at our AOT requirements specifically and the product and solution requirements to be able to understand what we need to incorporate from the federal certification perspective.
So it's safe to say, I mean, it sounds like you're in the middle of making those determinations between what your requirements are and whether they could be completed in Workday, or if you'd need to kind of add on an integration via Workday or something. So it's still underway then?
I would say we're still underway. We have a base understanding that the bulk of our requirements can be met as is, and there's a couple of areas that we might have continuing fleshing out to do.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
And one of the things, now I've gone off on a tangent, but one of the things that, when we were taking a bunch of testimony on and trying to understand, how ADS and the legislature would be able to easily kind of track and report on the cost of IT projects across state government. One of the concerns we had with the way the ADS budget is being changed and the way the tracking is being changed is that these costs are going to be, the spending authority is going to be transferred to the different agencies. I think I'm getting this right. And so one question I have is, if you guys determine that that this new system works for 80% of your needs, but you're going to have to buy 20% extra modules or figure out other ways to do stuff, how will that cost be accounted for in a centralized way so that we can see what the total cost of that migration was? Do you know what I'm?
I think I understand what you're saying, and I'm not sure that AOT would be the right agency to answer that question. I think that might be more a combination of AOA and ADS to really understand what they're looking at for statewide.
Will you guys be tracking and coding it though? Like you would be able to provide that data.
We have activity level tracking within our systems that we have the ability to have people code their time that would be spent on an, say this project, for example, we have an activity code that's set up. So I know how many people are spending what time associated with work on this project.
Joey?
Yeah.
So, what Madam Chair is saying is that in the proposed FY27 budget, the spoke is no longer recognized under the EDS budget. So anything that would have been paid via the spoke, that visibility to procurement is no longer reportable by EDS. And so that would require the agencies to, and that would also require AOA to issue chart fields that would be consistently required across every agency and department. And so I think I'm seeing a confusion in your face, which is why I should my head down, like, it hasn't been reviewed necessarily, is that finance and management would be providing those standards once the budget is passed. But it would require you as an agency to report on all spend that would be IT spend, depending on the EDS to do that for you, which we've done over the last 5 years.
We would follow whatever we're directed to by the agency of administration.
And those costs would need to be in a consistent, as Secretary just mentioned, that in a consistent chart of accounts or whatever the cost categories, coding categories that all agencies have to use. I would assume that you're not all using the same chart of accounts now.
I believe we have a standard chart of accounts.
Do have
Chart of accounts is standard, it's the chart fields
Chart
that
fields.
vary by account.
that is the word to use. So anyway, so that would also have to be standardized.
So what we would need to do is in the current system, we would need to make those modifications to the current system, which is really not built to do what we're asking for it to do. Moving into Workday, being able to visualize this under those expected standards, it has the capability to be built for that so that it wouldn't need to go through EDS and business office in order to have full reportability on spending that would be IT spent.
And so that raises the question, which is not the right time to ask it, but who would be responsible for delivering that summary? That be ADS or AOA or?
In the future ERP system,
Yes.
ADS would have the access to do it. In the current model, ADS doesn't have the ability, so we would have to depend on AOA to provide that to us.
Rep Marlin, then I think this is a question.
Go ahead.
I was just going to clarify that perhaps around this issue, JFO, James and Emily had looked at this issue with Commissioner Gresham, and they believe they could get to it. It's just a matter of within the current system, it's a matter of using those chart accounts and creating the codes for people to use that would allow it to be tracked back. But they would be the ones to ask the detail of specifically how they.
How they thought that could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Brett Morrow?
It's been a few changes in the federal landscape over the last year or two. Wondering if any of that has trickled down to the transportation world in terms of funding, reporting requirements, how that's going to, a lot of the STAR system, as I understand, is based on federal coding requirements, right? Have those changed? You see those changing? Or is the federal transportation landscape just kind of same old, same old?
So every 5 years, we go through what's called a reauthorization. We're at the tail end of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and we're expecting a new 5-year authorization come October. And at that time, sometimes there are changes to programs. Like this past time, there was a lot more discretionary programs. The time before, there were maybe less discretionary programs. So anytime that we experience something like that, there may be changes in our federal fund codes. And I would ask Renee to chime in if there's really any changes that need to be done in STARS on the back end of that.
No, in terms of the framework in STARS itself, it functions exactly the same. It's just federal appropriation codes that change and which projects would be tied to those federal appropriations within the system itself.
Yeah.
So the main framework of it is intact and functions the same.
Lisa?
One of the issues that we really wanted to talk about was the reason that STARS wasn't integrated into Vision to start. And it's our understanding that it was based on the level of granularity that needed to be tracked in STARS for federal reporting. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So my understanding is that there is capability in the current vision system for the level of granularity, but we do not have the appropriate modules in order to do that. And in the future solution, we anticipate that we will be able to get to the level of granularity. We've given our Workday team, the project team as a whole, the level of granularity that we need to achieve, and they've said that they can accomplish it. We've seen it be successful in Georgia DOT, and therefore we anticipate that we wouldn't have any issues as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got through the first 2 paragraphs of your memo?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we talked a little bit
Back we go.
on a few more. Okay, so we've covered the component of the gap analysis with Federal Highway Administration, the cognizant agency. FHWA is the cognizant agency for us. We do plan to bring their resource center in. They have about a 6-month lead time right now, given all of the resource constraints at our federal partner level. So we have worked with our district administrator of Federal Highway to say we have this project, we're ready to get going, we'd like to set up a meeting. So our first meeting with them is going to be this Friday, and then we'll be planning from there on who needs to be involved from the Federal Resource Center and how do we connect them with the project team, and when is the right time with our project team of digital services, AOA, all of the consultants and contractors that are working on the project to be able to wrap that into the project schedule. So we've had really good experience working with our Workday partner, with Guidehouse. We haven't worked as closely with a team, but we've spent a lot of time with them in the last couple of weeks, getting to know each other and starting the planning for what's next, because they would be our partner through the gap analysis. The rest of, I'm using your term, Lisa, what comes after the gap, what we've said of is our gap analysis. And then the outcome of that is the continued analysis of a deeper dive into our requirements and where we might need to look at our business processes differently. So I had included a little bit on when STARS was implemented. And if we want to talk about the history of that, we have Renee, who was here with the implementation of STARS at the very first time it was implemented. So she knows all of the things about our products, both MAPS and STARS. We do feel that the 2-year time frame is aggressive. But with the right resourcing and the commitment from the partner agencies and our contracting and vendor team, digital services and AOA, I do believe it can be successful. I've worked on incredibly aggressive technology projects in my past life, and we can do it if we set our mind to it and if we make the commitment. So I have every confidence that we'll be successful with delivering this project as well. Costs of our current systems. So I can't speak to the cost of the future system. It's not my wheelhouse, but our current systems, we're paying about $50,000 a year to sustain the MATS system. And that's just our ADS time. And then we're looking at a little over $1 million annually for STARS to keep it alive as well. And that's a combination of contracts and I guess contracted services as well, because we have some contracted services through digital service and a couple of staff members that are able to provide technical support. And then we have Renee. The coding of that is I don't want to say archaic because I feel like that is not accurate, but it's
That
a
is
system
accurate.
that is
Antiquated.
antiquated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, STARS was actually, the program itself was written in 1974, if you could believe that. And it was implemented in July of 1993. And I started with the state in 92, so I grew up with this. And it is a complete mainframe system, as you can imagine. There's no cute little icons that you click. It's all function keys and update. It's archaic in today's world, in today's modern world. But it has, I think the original cost of STARS was around $4 or $5 million. Pretty good return on investment for 30 plus years. We were able to actually modify it from the state's FEMA system prior to Vision. We were able to modify STARS to meet the new Vision system, meet the Vision upgrade 9.2, and also the VTHR, which is another fairly significant modification for STARS. And then most recently was the VT5 system, in which we integrate back and forth with as well. That was a pretty fairly modification to STARS too. And we went through a FHWA. They made a significant modification to their FEMA system about 8-9 years ago that STARS had to meet the requirements as well. So, but it is completely table driven. It is run now database and natural program, which is Kevin and ADS can attest is quite old and archaic. And not only are you losing AOT's STARS institutional knowledge, people are retiring out. You know, I came back specifically to work on the VT5s and ERP project for AOT, but you're also losing ADS support, programming support, because those languages are just hard to find people who can support those programming languages nowadays. So that's another factor I think that's weighs into all this as well. And
It's a really big risk for
it's
us.
a really
Is the resourcing and the
Yeah.
support. You know, I limping along is a reality for us. And we're doing everything that we can to pursue the ERP system as well as some alternatives. And I think the last paragraph kind of touches a little bit more on one thing I didn't mention yet. Although we have looked at all of the requirements of the MATS and the STARS systems, we know that there might be some functionality that we use in the MATS system now that does not translate to Workday. And I had a whole list in the back of my head, and now I'm kind of drawing a blank on it when I'm sitting here at the table. There's some equipment tracking. There's our job order contract tracking. They weren't intended, like that functionality isn't intended to be part of an ERP solution. It's something that was specifically built with our 3 state DOTs to meet the functions of our maintenance asset tracking system. So we are looking at where we can put some of the other functionality. One of the systems we've been looking at is VAMIS, or Vermont Asset Management Information System. We're using that now for our highway system. My team uses it for tracking our facilities. AOT has over 450 unique facility structures across the state. So all of those assets are their assets as well. They're in our Vermont Asset Management Information System, or VTrans Asset Management Information System, depending on how you want to take the V. This could be a place for a little bit of the functionality that we're using for our maintenance asset tracking system to go into as well. And then we'll look at BT Buys or Salesforce or other products that we have, or something else. But those conversations are part of what's next for us. They're what's happening this week, next week, the rest of May, June, July, with our partners and the project team to understand exactly where we need to parse out and what can we keep in the future Workday product. That's the bulk, I think, of what I have to share. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Great. Lisa?
So I think that obviously the case for stars and bars at labor, very compelling, and the need to replace that. And that was never anything I questioned in my analysis or saw any reason to. So the question I have is really where this analysis sits in the timeline for making the determinations of what's a gap and what's not between the systems that you have and the functionality that you require and Workday, and like you said, the plan for using other existing state systems. So originally this was described to us as something that would be available at the end of a 4-month business process reengineering effort that that vendor was doing, the first vendor. And then it was pushed back. And we still haven't been able to see that. We had developed an agreement for ongoing oversight responses for reporting back on, what's the alignment look like? What other new integrations do you need? How do you think you'll get to that, and what the plan is? And that timeline was getting pushed back. So what we're after, and I know there's new contract negotiations going on, I think at that time, what we would like to see is when will on what that alignment is. And I know it's a question for you, but also for ADS. So we're very interested in what that timeline will be and what that looked like, because we thought it would be delivered. We were told it would have been delivered by this time, and it hasn't. So that's the concern. So
I'm not sure how to answer your question.
yeah. So I guess we will hear about the new timeline when the contract negotiation is done, and when that information will be available.
You're talking about moving from a multi-phase approach to a single go live approach, that timeline?
Yes.
That will
On
be
when
after
you will-
negotiation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end.
It'll be after negotiations. So when the amendment is drafted and ready to sign, we will, as written under, I think it's under statute now, we will do within 3 days of those changes. And I would like to make sure that the committee chairs have access to it, and JFO does, before it's ready for signature. So you would have visibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Is this project on your dashboard? Didn't see it in there.
It is ERP under AOA.
Oh, under AOI.
Additional questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah, referring.
I'm just curious about how many people this involves in your department. Like, do you have embedded project team members?
So we have about 470 employees that use these systems on a daily basis. As far as the project team, I've been representing the agency on the steering committee. And then we have PLT, or project leadership team members. We have 2, 1 for each work stream. And when I say work stream, I'm talking human capital management and financial. So our CFO is involved. And then we have somebody that's working from one of our other teams as our HR lead. And then we have a couple of other folks engaged. As far as out throughout the entire organization, as with any change, we have change agents that we're looking at 2 or 3 from each department. So we have Department of Motor Vehicles, and then we have 4 divisions that are part of the organization. 5 divisions that are part of the organization. You just split up district maintenance and fleet. So as we're looking at the impact of this, we need more information before we're going to start really bringing a lot of people in, but there has to be buy-in for a change like this. So as we're looking at messaging, we look at myself as the leader within the team, our project management and our PMT or PLT members. This may change as we go forward. I don't know what the structure is going to look like, but we've been at the table having conversations with AOA, with ADS, with our Guidehouse and Attain partners, and Workday, and we'll do whatever is needed. We have anyone that's entering time could eventually be a change agent for this. Anyone that's involved leadership wise, from a deputy, one of our divisions, to our CFO, to the finance manager at DMV, they're all engaged and part of the conversations about how are we going to make this transition and what does it look like for us? What are our questions? What are our challenges? How can we help? How can we be involved to make sure that this is successful? Because I'm not the only one that's sitting here saying this is a problem. Our entire finance team of 42 people is saying, how are you going to help me get into the new future? And how are you going to get me a new system? And they all want to be part of the team. So when we're talking about, what does it look like? I think what it looked like for the last couple of years is going to be very different than what it looks like going forward, because we are going to commit the resources that are necessary for the success of the project. So if AOA or ADS comes to us and says, you need to commit this is the org chart that we have for a project team, and you need to find these folks within your organization, these types of people to perform these types of functions, we will find those people and we will make it happen. It's so important to us that this federal money is at risk for us, and that is more than 50% of our budget. So this is a non-negotiable project as far as I'm concerned.
And that's why you also need that backstop. At the same time, have
Exactly.
a shadow backup.
Yeah.
That you need to also devote help to. Wow.
Rep Bailey?
Have you looked, has another state done all this already?
So Georgia DOT has done both human capital management and financials. And then a couple of other states, I think we're at 9 that have done human capital management, and 2 or 3. I'm looking at ADS. I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to look directly at you. To verify that. So I've had conversations with Maine, with Georgia, with a couple of our Midwestern friends that have implemented components of Workday or done the full system. And it's game changing for them.
So you will be taking their input or looking at their systems and saying, we need this.
I'm meeting with Georgia DOT tomorrow as well, just to find out what we don't know yet. Now that we have regularly scheduled check-ins with Georgia. So I meet with them like every 2 or 3 months, depending on what our schedules allow.
So you mentioned that Maine is using Workday already. Did you say that?
Yes.
That's the main transportation, the main DOT, whatever it's called.
I think it might be statewide for them to use human capital management. Yeah.
And New Hampshire, it's New Hampshire.
New Hampshire is still on the MAPS product for now, as far as I know.
Don't know what their plans are, because the 3 states were sharing the old system.
We have, yeah.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, their ERP system is run out of a different office. They are sticking with the same platform that they have today, which was, I think, just an upgrade for them. Their transportation requirements are managed outside of their ERP system.
Rep Morrow?
When did your agencies first start looking at upgrading or changing this system, given its antiquated nature?
So for maths, I'm going to predate myself in my current position. I work for DII when DII, Department of Innovation and Information, existed. And at that time, we were looking at a maths upgrade. It was still part of the Tri-State Partnership. We were trying to move maths into the online version of maths so that it would be accessible in a different way instead of just on your physical computer wherever you went. And then we ended up pulling out of that. So we've been trying to upgrade.
What year are we talking?
I'm thinking it was maybe 2009. ish. I'm terrible with dates when it comes to where I was at a particular time, but somewhere around that.
And the STARS program?
So STARS at least twice. We looked at it in 2015-16, which is where our requirements came from that we found with ADS and Guidehouse on. And prior to that, we did a look at in 2009 when we upgraded to VTHR system at the time to remote. And that's the year it was for METS. Yeah. And I don't know what the year on the STARS, complete STARS replacement would have been before 2009.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So the requirements for STARS you're using currently are from 10 years ago. Is that what you just said?
We use that as a basis and then reviewed that and updated with any current processes that we are using now. We started at that. That was our starting point.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your coming out of retirement to help with this. And
I question the sanity.
so do I. And your institutional knowledge is so helpful. I am going to share a story. I can't help myself. I just keep remembering that I was on a summer task force for, this vital piece of education funding widgetry maybe 5 years ago. And we were in testimony and trying to figure out the deep origins of something. And an amazing JFO analyst came out of retirement and found it in a cardboard box in her barn.
Yeah.
And that was just so Vermonty. I thought, it was just amazing. And she came and, we had the info we need. Which is that something along the lines of, somebody suggested 2 and somebody suggested 4, so the legislature picked 3, which is
Sounds right.
yeah, sounds about right. So, all right. Any additional questions, anecdotes, stories from the past? Okay,
Thank you very much for having us.
great. Thanks so much. And we have labor
Thank you.
Vidal's coming in next week, I think, for a similar convo. So, all right. We can go off live. We've got a vote on